You know, there is this massive assumption in business, and honestly just in life, that if you have the biggest market share or maybe the biggest ad budget, you are automatically the leader. Like, you win. Game over.
Right. The whole might makes right school of marketing. Whoever shouts the loudest must obviously be in charge.
Exactly. But I mean, we have all seen those giants that are technically huge, but they feel kind of dead.
Yeah.
They are everywhere. They take up all the shelf space, but they aren't setting the agenda anymore. They are just kind of existing.
Yeah.
And then you have these other brands, maybe smaller, maybe newer, that feel like they are just dragging the entire industry forward with them.
And that distinction is exactly what we are unpacking today. Because it is the difference between being big and actually being a leader. And the really fascinating part is that it's not just a feeling. It is a specific, measurable thing.
Right, and we aren't just going off vibes for this deep dive. We are looking at a highly validated framework called the Brand Leadership Scale, or the BLS. This comes directly from a study by Chang and Ko, which was published in the Journal of Brand Management back in 2014. So this is rigorous stuff. We are moving past the old ideas of just having a famous name and asking, how do you measure a brand's ability to dominate the future, not just the present?
That is the key shift right there, because for decades, marketing was totally obsessed with brand equity, mostly thanks to David Aker's work in the 90s. And equity is great. It measures the financial value of the name itself.
Like how much the Coca-Cola script is worth on a balance sheet.
Exactly. But Chang and Co. identified a major gap there. Equity tells you what a brand is worth as an asset today. It doesn't necessarily tell you if that brand has the momentum to actually lead the industry tomorrow.
It's sort of like the difference between having a big bank account and having a high income. One is just a pile of cash, but the other is the actual engine generating it.
That is a great way to put it. The BLS is about the engine. It is about the velocity of the brand.
So let's look at the actual definition Chang and Co. give us here. They define brand leadership as the consumer's perception of a brand's ability to distinctively achieve excellence through trendsetting and positioning.
There are two phrases in there that matter more than anything else: consumer perception and trend setting.
I want to push on that consumer perception part for a second, because if I am a CFO, I am looking at my sales data. I don't really care about feelings or perceptions. Why does the perception matter more than the hard numbers in this specific model?
Because sales are a lagging indicator. Perception is a leading indicator. You can sell 1 billion units simply because you are the cheapest option, or maybe you're the only option in a certain region.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the consumer actually sees you as a leader. If they don't perceive you as the one driving the bus, the very moment a better option appears, they are gone. High brand leadership creates a psychological moat that mere sales volume just cannot replicate.
So it is a psychological position in the customer's mind, not just a financial position on a spreadsheet.
Precisely. It is about real estate in the mind. And that links directly to the second word, trend setting. This model views positioning as something highly dynamic.
Rather than static.
Right. Old school positioning was static. You plant your flag on safety or luxury, and you defend that hill forever. But Chang and Co. argue that leadership is a constant state of motion. You have to be seen as continuously evolving.
If you stop moving, you stop leading.
Exactly. Static positioning is incredibly dangerous in a hyper-competitive market.
Okay, so to measure this constant motion, Chang and Co. broke it down into 4 distinct dimensions. This is really the meat of the study we are looking at today. So let's walk through the 4 pillars of the brand leadership scale, starting with dimension 1, which is perceived quality.
A foundation. The absolute bedrock of the whole thing.
Now, for our listeners who live in this business world, quality seems incredibly obvious. If your product breaks, you lose. But how does the BLS differentiate quality from just basic competence?
It is entirely about comparison. The study defines perceived quality as the consumer's evaluation of excellence relative to competitors. It is not just asking, is this good? It is asking, is this undoubtedly better than the other guy?
So it is a comparative ranking taking place in the consumer's mind.
Yes. And the research explicitly calls this the ticket to play. You absolutely cannot be a leader with average quality, no matter how cool or edgy your marketing campaign is. High perceived quality is the primary driver of a consumer's willingness to pay a premium price. It establishes that initial baseline of trust.
It is the table stakes. If you don't have this first pillar, the rest of the model doesn't even matter.
Correct. You cannot trend set your way out of a genuinely bad product. Think about it. If a company tries to position itself as highly innovative, but their basic product falls apart after 2 uses, they don't look like leaders. They look like scammers.
Wow, yeah.
Quality is essentially the permission slip the consumer gives you to step up and be a leader.
That makes total sense. So let's say you have the best widget. You have the quality locked down. That is step one. Step two is perceived value. And I feel like this is where a lot of companies get completely tripped up because value is so often used as a code word for cheap.
Oh, definitely. The discount aisle mentality. Great value brand, right? But in the BLS framework, value is absolutely not about being the cheapest option on the shelf. Value is an equation. It is the assessment of what is received versus what is given.
What is received versus what is given. Let's break that equation down a bit.
Okay, so what is given is the cost to the consumer. Usually that means money, sure, but it is also time, effort, and psychological energy. If a product is really hard to find or complicated to learn how to use, the cost actually goes way up.
Right. Any kind of friction is a cost.
Exactly. Now, on the other side, what is received is the benefit triad. That includes functional, emotional, and social benefits.
Okay, functional is easy enough. Does it work? If I go buy a power drill, does it successfully make a hole in my wall?
Right. That is the baseline expectation. Then you have the emotional benefit. How does using this make me feel? Do I feel secure? Do I feel happy? Do I feel a little thrill every time I pick it up?
And what about the social component?
That is the real kicker for leadership. What does using this brand say about me to the rest of the world?
The badge value, the status signaling.
Exactly. Brand leaders truly excel right there. They don't try to win by lowering the denominator of the equation, the price. They win by absolutely exploding the numerator, the benefits. They make the consumer feel that the emotional and social payoff is so high, the actual price tag becomes almost irrelevant.
They aren't fighting a race to the bottom price war.
No, they are justifying and validating the consumer's investment of resources.
So a value brand in this specific academic context could actually be the most expensive thing on the market, as long as the perceived benefit heavily outweighs that cost.
100%. Think about a high-end luxury car. It has massive perceived value, not because it is cheap, it obviously isn't, but because the social and emotional return on that massive price tag is perceived by the buyer to be worth it. The consumer thinks, I am giving you $100,000, but I am receiving status, thrill, and absolute engineering perfection. The equation balances out heavily in the brand's favor.
Got it. So quality gets you in the door, and value justifies the cost. Now we arrive at the third pillar, and this feels like the one that really separates the true leaders from the older heritage brands. Dimension 3 is perceived innovativeness.
This is the engine of the entire model. This is where that dynamic moving part we talked about really lives.
The study calls this the trendsetting component. But is this just about launching some random new feature every single quarter? Like, does my tube of toothpaste need to have Bluetooth to be considered innovative?
Please don't give them any ideas. Wow. No, it is much deeper than just gimmicks or slapping tech onto a product. It is about future relevance. Perceived innovativeness is the consumer's genuine belief that this brand is actively pioneering the future of the entire category.
Future relevance.
Yeah.
I really like that phrasing. It's not just, what have you done for me lately? It's, what are you going to do for me tomorrow?
Exactly. When a consumer sees a brand as highly innovative, they are effectively placing a bet on that brand's longevity. They assume the brand will still be deeply relevant in 5 or 10 years because they are the ones currently writing the rules of the game today.
It is a strong signal of endurance. Because if you aren't innovative, you just look stagnant. And as we established earlier...
Static looks a lot like dying. If you lack this specific dimension, you might have incredible quality and great value, but you just become a legacy brand. People respect you, but they certainly don't look to you for what is next. You become the brand your parents used.
Right.
And while that might be financially profitable for a while, it is not leadership. It is just a slow, respectable decline.
That is a terrifying spot for any company to be in. The respectable decline. Okay, that leads us to the final pillar. Dimension 4 is perceived popularity. Now, I have to be completely honest with you. When I first read this in the source material, I bristled a little bit. It sounds incredibly shallow, almost like high school cafeteria dynamics. Oh, everyone likes them, so they must be the best.
It definitely sounds superficial at first glance, I agree, but it is actually rooted in hardwired evolutionary psychology. We are really talking about the concept of social proof.
The idea that if the rest of the herd is doing it, it must be safe.
Exactly. It is a risk reduction mechanism. Human brains are cognitive misers. We absolutely hate doing deep, exhausting analysis on every single purchase we make. Do you really want to research the global supply chain and chemical composition of every single laundry detergent sitting on the grocery store shelf?
Absolutely not. I just grab the orange jug because I recognize it and I know it works.
Right. Popularity acts as a heuristic, a mental shortcut. 10,000 people can't possibly be wrong. If a brand has high perceived popularity, it sends a massive signal of market acceptance. It dramatically lowers the anxiety of the purchase decision. It essentially validates the choice before you even make it.
So popularity isn't just about vanity metrics or Instagram followers. It acts as a proxy for quality in the consumer's subconscious mind.
Yes. It answers a very primal question. Is this a weird choice for me to make? If the brand is highly popular, the answer is no. It provides a feeling of safety. A true brand leader needs that widespread recognition to make the consumer feel completely comfortable joining their tribe.
Okay, so we have the four main ingredients on the table: perceived quality, value, innovativeness, and popularity. But Chang and Co. are very specific in the study about how these four things actually interact. They call brand leadership a second-order factor. Can you translate that out of academic speak for us?
It is actually much simpler than it sounds. Just think of the four dimensions as four pillars holding up a roof. The roof itself is brand leadership. You obviously can't have the roof suspended in the air without all the pillars working together to support it.
So you can't just pick and choose your favorite pillars. I can't be a leader if I am highly innovative and very popular, but my quality is totally trash.
No. If you have that, you are just a fad. That is a product that explodes virally on social media for a month and then completely disappears because everyone realizes it breaks the second you touch it.
And what if I have amazing quality and great value, but zero innovation?
Then you are a commodity. You are a utility product.
Yeah.
You are reliable, sure, but you are not leading anybody anywhere.
So the second-order factor concept just means that brand leadership is the direct result of the synergy between all four dimensions happening at once.
Correct. It is an all-or-nothing game at the true leadership level. You need a sufficient score in all four of those individual dimensions to trigger that global overall perception of leadership. It is just like baking a cake. You can't just leave out the flour and cross your fingers hoping it still tastes like a cake.
Which perfectly explains why true, undisputed brand leaders are actually so incredibly rare in the wild. Maintaining exceptionally high scores in all four of those buckets simultaneously seems exhausting.
It is. It is incredibly difficult to be the highest quality and the best value and the most innovative and the most popular all at the same time. That is exactly why the brands that do manage to pull it off tend to absolutely dominate their industries for decades. They've completely mastered that balancing act.
I want to circle back to the context we started with at the top of the deep dive. Most of our listeners are highly familiar with the classic business school models. You've got Kevin Lane Keller's customer-based brand equity model, the famous pyramid, or David Aker's work on brand assets. Does the BLS framework replace those older models? Or does it kind of sit alongside them?
It sits perfectly alongside them, but it serves a very different function. Think of Keller's pyramid model as a blueprint for building a brand from scratch. It tells you the exact steps to take to get from total anonymity to deep brand resonance.
Okay, so Keller is the construction manual for the house.
Right. First you build identity, then you build meaning, then response, and so on. It is a step-by-step process. The BLS, on the other hand, is a diagnostic tool for assessing your position once the house is already built. It is the annual checkup. It is the MRI scan you take to see how healthy the patient actually is today.
That is a crucial distinction because you could strictly follow Keller's model, build a really strong, resonant brand, but still not be viewed as an industry leader.
Exactly. And the study explicitly points out this very gap. You can have incredibly high brand equity, meaning high consumer awareness and deep loyalty, but still have very low brand leadership.
The stale giant scenario we talked about.
Yes. High equity, low leadership. And the massive danger there is that if you ignore the leadership metrics, your equity will eventually erode away. You simply cannot live off past glory forever. You can have a high net worth from your past successes, but if your income stream of innovation stops flowing, you are eventually going to go broke.
So let's make this highly actionable for the listener. Say I am a CMO, or I am running a scrappy startup, or maybe I'm even just managing my own personal brand.
Yeah.
I take this framework. How do I actually use it tomorrow morning?
You use it for rigorous competitive analysis. This is the real so what moment of the study. You survey your target market on these four specific dimensions, asking them to rate you and to rate your top competitors.
And you just look for the mismatches in the data.
You look for the gaps. You might find that internally you are constantly patting yourself on the back for your superior product quality. You sit in meetings thinking, thinking, we make the absolute best stuff on the market, and the survey data comes back and says, yeah, the customer agrees with you. You completely win on quality.
Well, this sounds like a good day at the office.
It is good. But then you look closer, and the survey also shows you are losing badly on perceived innovativeness. People think you are high quality, but completely boring. You are old news.
That changed your entire advertising and budget strategy instantly.
Completely. If you are winning on quality but losing on innovation, buying more billboard ads that say we are high quality is literally lighting money on fire. The consumer already believes that about you. You need to shift those funds over to R&D or launch a bold new campaign that highlights your new technology. You have to aggressively move the needle exactly where it is stuck.
It stops you from just shouting into the void about things people already know and agree with.
It makes your marketing surgical. Instead of sitting around saying, let's make a cool ad, the conversation becomes, we need to improve our score on dimension 3 by 5 points this quarter.
And if you do this longitudinally, tracking the data year over year, you can actually see if your strategic pivots are working.
Exactly. Did that new product launch actually move our innovativeness score up? Did that recent price hike completely tank our value score? It turns the concept of brand leadership from a vague, fuzzy vibe into a highly manageable, trackable asset.
It turns the vibe into hard data.
You can't manage what you don't measure. It is a total cliche, but it applies here perfectly. If you aren't measuring these 4 specific pillars, you are just flying blind.
It is really powerful because it takes all the mystery out of it. We so often look at massive brands like Apple or Nike or whoever is hot right now, and we think they just have some kind of magic dust. But really, under the hood, they are just relentlessly pulling these 4 levers at the exact same time.
Consistently and simultaneously. That is the only magic dust there is.
So let's wrap this up. If you are looking to audit your own brand today, or you just want to understand why you instinctively reach for one product over another in the store, you are looking at the brand leadership scale.
4 pillars to remember.
Pillar 1, perceived quality. Is it objectively better than the competition?
Pillar 2, perceived value. Does the functional, emotional, and social benefit completely justify the cost?
Pillar 3, perceived innovativeness. Are you actively setting the trends or just desperately chasing them?
And Pillar 4, perceived popularity. Does the broader market validate this choice?
Put them all together, and you don't just have a brand, you have a true leader.
And that is a very, very different asset class to own.
Here is the final thought I want to leave everyone with.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about how this model is highly dynamic. It is entirely about motion.
Right.
If brand leadership is a constant state of motion, it means you never actually arrive. You can't just win the trophy and go home to rest. The very moment you stop innovating, or the moment your quality slips even a little, that leadership status begins to decay.
It is basic entropy. If you aren't constantly adding fresh energy to the system, it naturally falls apart.
So the ultimate question you should be asking isn't just, is my brand a leader? The question is my brand still leading today? Something to really think about next time you reach for that top shelf product. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure.